Leeds United has been one of the favorite clubs among the US soccer fan base lately for obvious reasons, as they're currently coached by Jesse Marsch and they signed Brenden Aaronson and Tyler Adams. But are they changing the way England sees US soccer? Hi, and you're here on Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to another episode. And today we're going to go through Leeds United and the Americans in the team, talk about their current situation, how they're being seen by English fans with all this American influence in the current squad with Jesse Marsch, Tyler Adams, and Brenden Aaronson. And for this video, I will count the help of Conor from One Leeds Fan Channel, to me, the best Leeds channel on YouTube, to Conor's channel or my channel as well if you enjoy here Tactical Manager TV. All right, so now let's bring in Conor and talk about the Leeds United States of America. All right, Conor, back to the channel. Thank you, first and foremost, for coming along once again. Just one thing, and I'm not saying this because you're here in the channel. I highly recommend Conor's channel. If you are an American following the Americans abroad and you want to get Leeds information, accurate, non-biased, Conor's your guy for that. He will hate on the Americans when he has to, but he also won't. He'll praise them when they deserve it, which honestly, they kind of deserved it lately, haven't they?
Oh, mate, incredible. Yeah, I've got absolutely no criticisms with the American contingent at the minute, which is fantastic. And like you said, Filippo, it is one of those where I try to look at everything objectively. There's no real bias, which is quite unusual with football fan channels. Like, I get called negative and pessimistic quite a lot because I just try to take an objective view on Leeds.
What a coincidence.
Yeah. and the American link as well. You know, the Americans, I will just judge them as just everyday footballers. So, but they've been excellent. And I know we're going to touch on Jesse, but Tyler's fit in very, very nicely. I think the big compliment to Tyler is 1v1 duels. He's been unbelievable, and it's you can't measure it. It's not quantitative, but his passion and I mentioned it in a stream this morning, Filippo, as well. Like, you can't measure passion, you can't measure heart and desire. But what the beautiful thing about what Tyler Adams is bringing at the minute is he's almost indoctrinated himself within a working class club. And Leeds United, as a fan base, we love players who give 110%, fight, desire, roar on the crowd, make big tackles. It's all these things that you can't really measure. It's all these things that at the end of the season aren't going to be glossy and all this sort of stuff. But what he's doing at the minute, quite basic things, but he's really winning everybody over. And I think, yeah, he's been excellent. Brendan's been superb. I think his spatial awareness is second to none. His movement is excellent. I think sometimes he can be a little bit more economical on the ball, but that'll come with time. But, 21 years of age, I think he's acclimatized very, very nicely, been one of the standouts. And just Jesse overall, yeah, I know I will touch on him, mate, so I won't delve into it too much. But, yeah, very impressed with what we've seen so far. It should be 9 points out of 9, really.
That was a lot of complimenting. We're going to get to all of that as well very soon, a little bit more in details. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about right away, you live in England, and I kind of want to get a perception from England, because there is the typical stereotype of Americans don't know soccer. Americans don't play soccer. And obviously that is not true by now. And definitely the United States has a lot of improvement to be done. We have yet to produce one world-class player, in my opinion. So that says a lot. With a country of our money, infrastructure, and size, you'd think we would have at least one by now. We never had, in my opinion. Okay, if people think Pulisic, Weston are world-class, it's a different topic. I think they're elite players. I just don't think it's at that world-class category. And there's been even worse stereotypes when it comes to American coaches, right? It becomes even worse because players, you guys already had in the past some good American goalkeepers. Clint Dempsey was successful in the Premier League. Jesse Marsch, the perception, even the Ted Lasso jokes when he arrived, with what's going on with Leeds, at least right now, saving relegation, now a good start to this season, is the perception changing, or do you think it still needs time?
I think at the weekend, sorry, was it the weekend? God, I'm losing track of time. Yeah, it is at the weekend. that was the biggest moment for Jesse Marsch at Leeds United. That was huge. It was.
Tell the people what game, just in case they watch it later. The Chelsea game,
okay,
right?
okay. Sorry, yeah. Leeds beat Chelsea yesterday 3-0, which was a massive result for us. Obviously, you know, Chelsea, in my opinion, will probably finish in the top 3, dependent on how they end the transfer window. So, as you guys know, you know, as a sort of lowerly ranked Premier League team, to go out and beat a top 3 side with the resources that they have, and to batter them. Leeds battered them, and there was a lot of, you know, I actually think I was just mentioning to you there off air, mate, about Tyler Adams and Brendan. I think they were the best players on the pitch alongside Jack Harrison. But in terms of what we saw yesterday, we've really been struggling as a fan base to let go of Bielsa. I think collectively. Now what's happened is Jesse's come in with 12 games to go the season. It was a little bit, we're not sure about this guy. There's been some okay performances, but what's the tactical imprint here? Because we're playing quite wide, which still seems to be that Bielsa-ism. It's almost like he's telling them to go out there and just play the ball to Rafinha and let's see what happens. Like, what is the tactical imprint here from Jesse Marsch? But when he's come back, there's definitely been a change. You know, when Leeds have gone into the new season, obviously he's brought his players in, which is naturally going to help. But what we saw yesterday was almost a changing of the tide. That was one of those moments. Leeds played Stoke City in Bielsa's first ever game, and we had a lot of the same players who we had the season previously, and Leeds had finished, I think it was maybe like 12th, 13th, if memory fits. And Bielsa had completely changed these players in 6 weeks, and it was unbelievable. Stoke had come down from the Premier League. Leeds battered them 3-1, and we were all watching it going, what on earth is that? And that was Bielsa. He'd stamped his flag into the Ellen Road turf, and it was like, wow, this is incredible. And it almost felt like that was what happened yesterday. I've not been fully convinced on Jesse, but yesterday I saw something where I was like, wow, this really could be the benchmark going forward now. The preconceptions of Bielsa, where we'd be open, where, you know, he wouldn't really be pragmatic. We wouldn't devise a secondary game plan. That changed. And what I love about him at the minute is he's learning, Filippo. Every week he's learning. Last week we criticised him for not making any subs. He did lose us the game last week. If he'd have brought on subs, I'm convinced Leeds would have won that game. First game he did it against Wolves, and it worked perfectly. But then again, yesterday he made the subs at the right point, and he just seems to be every single week by week, he's adapting, he's transitioning into the Premier League, and he's understanding it a little bit more. It's the best league in the world, right? It's going to be so difficult for you know, an American manager in particular to come in and really hit the ground running. But yesterday, it seemed like a big change, to be honest, mate. It seemed like that flag bearer moment, which Bielsa had in his first game about 4 years ago. So we'll have to wait and see.
That's, you point out what I like the most. What I like the most about the win against Chelsea was we saw he learned from the mistakes of the 2-0 lead against Southampton. He's like, I got to adjust to it. The post game for that Southampton game, Jesse Marsch didn't seem like he recognized much of his mistakes, but he said he would go back and look at it. And clearly he did. And just based on the actions he took against Chelsea, it looks like he recognized his mistakes. Saying it or not, we clearly saw it right there. So my question to you is this here, because I made even a joke. I made even a joke about this. It looks like Leeds United was playing soccer on crack. The intensity that Jesse Marsch was bringing in, I was like, what's going on here? Are they like Diego Maradona? What are they doing right now? But not in you get what I mean. But
yeah.
My question is there any worries from your side, from your Leeds experience with Bielsa? Because we've seen this high intensity style of play before, that the legs might give away at some point this season?
Yeah, I think there's always going to be that worry, and that's that when I was talking to you about the worry with a lot of our fans have a lot of trauma built in, and we had some great times with Bielsa, but toward the end it really did turn. I mean, you know, conceding 7 at City, 6 at Liverpool, 4 against Tottenham, 4 against Man United. It was almost like they were just sort of like, you know, sticking the knife in and twisting every single time we play against these top 4, top 6 teams. It was horrible, and even teams in and around us. But Jesse's almost come in, and I do like what he's done in terms of pressing in units. I like what he's done in terms of us off the ball as well. And I think the big thing is he's brought in players who understand his system a little bit, well, a lot. Now, I think the thing with Bielsa was the problem is it wasn't just the matches, Filippo. It was everything leading up to the matches. It was the preparation, which was meticulous, but the physical aspect, Leeds were breaking down. They were really breaking down. And whilst I understand what you mean in terms of, are you worried about the Bielsa, you know, Marsch similarities in terms of pressing, No, not really, because I think this is a lot more achievable in what we're doing. I think there are actions on when we press. There are certain times when we engage. Whereas with Bielsa, it was just hell for leather football. It was rock and roll. It just seemed like 150.
Soccer on crack.
That exactly right, mate. But maybe on crack, and then on crack some more. You know what I mean? It's 150 miles an hour, and the training. Obviously, you'll know about the murder ball sessions. Where if any fans of subscribers to your channel don't know what the murder ball is, Bielsa basically used to have training sessions, obviously called murder ball, where for 90 minutes. Leeds would not be able, would have to play a 90-minute game without the ball going out of play. So anytime the ball did go out of play, the coaches would throw it back in. And this would happen towards the back end of Bielsa's tenure 3 times a week. So the players were breaking down. It was so intense. And I just think from reports I've heard with Jesse Marsch is he's really taken a step back on the training. I think that's going to help with fatigue. I think that's going to help with injuries. And I think the squad's going to be a lot fresher going into the weekend's matches, mate. So I think it was almost like Leeds had played 2 or 3 games before getting into that Premier League game with Bielsa, which I think towards the back end of his tenure was the big problem. So I don't think the comparisons are really there with Marcelo, but like I can understand it with the pressing and stuff. But I just think they just look super fit, Filippo, and that's only going to benefit Leeds. And
thank you for that explanation, because us that just follow the club at a not a superficial level, but following specific players, right? We tend to just draw parallels within what we see in the field in the game. So I wasn't aware of that training difference right there, and that definitely will play a big role. So very quickly now, I want to go through Tyler and Brenden. We'll start Tyler Adams, right? Clearly, there was skepticism of this transfer from you, from me too. I was skeptic of Tyler Adams because
it was your fault why I was skeptical.
Yeah, I think I influenced you on that. The problem with Tyler for me that worried me a bit was when he was at Leipzig with Jesse. Jesse kept playing him no matter how bad he performed. He would keep giving the ball away under pressure. And it happened many times. He messed up against Manchester City, against Jack Grealish in the Champions League, and in the Bundesliga. It wasn't good. Sorry, it wasn't working. But Jesse kept playing him. So I was worried that Jesse was bringing him. And again, we're recording this after 3 games. So it's not said and done. It's not Tyler Adams dominates the Premier League. That hasn't happened. Let's take a step back. It's only 3 games. With that said, what have you liked and what are you worried in regards to Tyler Adams so far? I can tell you, if you want to, I can dive into why I think he's being successful so far and what aspects of his game could become a problem.
Yeah, I saw some of your tweets actually this morning, which were really interesting. I was just having a read through, and obviously you'll know way more, and all your subscribers will know way more about Tyler Adams in terms of longevity than I will. But I can just tell you in terms of the short time I've seen him, I'm obviously trying to be as objective as possible. I think in the Wolves game, they pressed a little bit on him, and I think sometimes he can be a little bit. I think he can be quite poor in possession, I'll be honest. But I also think there's been a lot of surprises, to be honest, Filippo, in terms of actually him in possession. Obviously, there's times where, you know, they might press up high on him and he might fluster a little bit on the ball. But I've actually seen quite a bit of him where there have been instances where he's been pressed as well, and he's actually alleviated that press. He's bypassed it quite nicely. And I thought he was going to come in and be a little bit like the midfielder that we have at the minute called Adam Forshaw, who is very lateral in his passing. He'll go back quite a bit. He isn't really progressive with his passes. Whereas Tyler has actually shown quite a bit through the central spaces. And, you know, Jesse's come out and said he's playing the football of his career, which is really interesting. Obviously, I mean, it's only 3 games, so you can't really judge it on a longevity basis, but he's looked really good, Filippo. He has. I can't turn around and say, you know, I've got a problem here with him, a problem there with him, because what he's done. Do you know what I like about him? And I know a lot of your audience will appreciate this. There's something with Americans. They are so competitive, and I know I said this on my stream earlier on, I know it's bred from a very, very young age in terms of competition, but you can just see it. And from what we've heard from like Patrick Bamford in the training sessions, and when he's been on video with LUTV, Leeds United sort of TV station, he said that they're so hungry, and they're so you know, the competition is so high in training when they've come in. Obviously Jesse brings that as well, and I think that is a good sort of an Americanism to bring into the club, obviously, you know, with that high elite level of competition, as I keep mentioning that buzzword. But he isn't scared of any opponent. He's not scared. I mean, Conor Gallagher yesterday, Conor Gallagher was one of the best, in my opinion, best midfielders in the Premier League last season. Tyler Adams was just winding him up. He was winding him up. He wasn't.
Conor's not good under pressure. I don't think he's a very technical player in tight spaces, Conor Gallagher. That's what I've noticed.
Yeah. True. But I think when they were going, 1v1 duels, ground duels, Tyler Adams was gobbling him up, and I like that. And he wasn't giving the ball away a lot, and he's been very busy. I mean, it's a very basic profile, Filippo.
Yeah.
We're not talking about Rodri here. We're not talking about players of that ilk. We're saying, look, the 1v1 battles, keeping it simple but making progressive passes. He's been very, very good at that. But we're not talking about an elite level defensive midfielder here. But he really does fit the system. But I also think the reason he's fit the system very, very nicely is because of his double pivot partner, Mark Rocker, who's been just excellent as well.
I was going to get to that. One concern I have with Tyler is he has been healthy for a while, but he has had some injuries in the past that were kind of annoying for us as U.S. men's national team fans. And how much this high-intensity Jesse Marsch system, with him being a vital player that plays every week, if he won't get injured. But that's just a concern that really is just being way too pessimistic. The things with Tyler that I've noticed is when he's quick on the ball, quick releases, gets rid of it quick, he's good on the ball. The problem is when you play on a slow build-up, and he is the technical guy in the midfield. Like the United States plays a 4-3-3 usually, and Tyler's the lone 6.
I can see how he'd struggle with that.
When he's set up like that and they press him, he's not good in distribution. But the way Jesse's playing, progressive passes that can penetrate through the defense, he's good at that. And when he has a midfielder that is a little bit better in distribution, a little bit more technical, like Marco Rocca. And in the United States, I've noticed Greg Berhalter somewhat noticing that, because in the last camp, I thought about this after watching him with Leeds, he did bring Yunus Musa back to help Tyler with the build-up, because he probably recognized it's like, that's how I exposed Tyler Adams. The good thing for Leeds is I think Jesse knows Tyler well enough that he won't put him in a position to fail at this point. He understands that. That's one of the concerns. Besides that, I've been liking what I'm seeing with Tyler. I did think in the first game when y'all faced Wolves, Tyler did overcommit to some tackles too much, that desire to get the ball, and he lunged in and got beat. These last 2 games, he was like on fire and full of energy, but he knew when to slow down the possession on counterattacks. He knew when to lunge in for a tackle. It seemed like he figured that out a little bit better. It could have been that just the first game, overly excited for it, and he adjusted that. But he has done that in the past, overcommitting to tackles at times. Those are the things I'm going to observe for Tyler in the next few games. But for the last 2 games, if you evaluate those problems, he's been near perfect. He hasn't really done them.
Yeah, I can definitely see how in the 6 that'd be a problem. I mean, that's up to the US manager as well to really, look and see where. I mean, would the US men's national team be better with Tyler Adams in a better role, a more beneficial role to him? Is he going to be able to influence the team a lot more? Is he going to be able to break up play a lot more? I mean, that's what Jesse's done. I think the system's just tailor-made for Brenden Aaronson. It's tailor-made for Tyler Adams and Mark Rocker and Rasmus Christensen, and that's what he's done really, really well. And it's the consistency as well. Filippo, he's not chopping and changing the starting lineup. He's sticking with his boys, and the boys that know the system and the style of play. I mean, I couldn't believe yesterday. I mean, they ran 11 kilometers more than Chelsea, and me and you spoke about Brendan. We absolutely love him. And that's the thing as well. We'll if they perform, if they give 110%. Brendan, Brendan, Tyler, and all maybe some more American boys will come in. Maybe there's still some rumors going around. But,
makes my life easier, by the way, because then I can just watch one game, a bunch of players.
But yeah, man, what they're giving. Basically, it's really hard to explain, Filippo, but because Leeds is such a working class city, and we've had such heroes in midfield before and in that defensive midfield bracket, he has really got. I'm talking Tyler Adams here. He has really got an opportunity to make himself, absolutely adored by these fans. That's all it takes. 110% passion, fight, and Brenden Aaronson is the exact same. And what we saw yesterday, we absolutely outplayed Chelsea. We battered Chelsea, and those two were just. Yeah, and they're putting, there's a lot of chat at the minute, on the airwaves in the UK about more respect to Jesse Marsch, because let's be right, he tactically. Once again, I keep using the word, but he tactically battered Tuchel yesterday. Thomas Tuchel, one of the best managers in the world.
He soccered Tuchel.
That's exactly, man. Yeah, and he got it right, and Tuchel couldn't handle it in the end. So yeah, Jesse got it bang on, and I think I'll be honest with you, I think they underestimated Jesse and they underestimated Leeds United, and that's what happens, and that's why I'm very excited.
For Brenden Aaronson, you mentioned what your initial thoughts. Again, it's still very early, so you're still
Mm.
learning more and more about the players as it goes, and there's not that much data, right? Because obviously you're not following him at Salzburg or the United States. Your initial thoughts on what you've liked a lot from him. I know you already touched upon how he gives 110% the whole freaking game,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
aside from that, what did you like, and what from his game you want to see maybe an improvement, adjustment quickly from Brenden?
I think to start maybe on the things that he needs to improve, I think sometimes his passing, he seems to go at 100 miles an hour a lot, which we have that in Dan James a little bit. Sometimes his passing and his selection, not only the pass accuracy and efficiency, but the selection of passes as well, I think sometimes needs to improve a little bit. I think sometimes he gets caught up in the pressing and you know, just the enthralling nature of this system at the minute. Sometimes slow down, take a step. Like, I never really see him sort of passing the ball laterally or passing the ball, you know, backwards when Leeds need to recycle the ball, just keep it moving. He's always looking to go forward, which is great. But sometimes I think there needs to be a bit of a variation in the Premier League when it comes to that.
How much is that on Jesse though?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, if you're playing vertically and you're playing narrow, and Brendan's in a narrow position, and he's been told to go forward all the time, then he's got it. You know, that's the instruction, isn't it? But
yeah.
Maybe sometimes. And that's going to be, you know, he's 21 years old. His football IQ is definitely going to build, but sometimes his pass selection has been a little bit off. But overall, we're all so happy with him, Filippo. We're all so happy with him. Just his energy, his endeavour, as I keep saying, his fight, his desire, his passion, all these buzzwords. But I think as well, his spatial awareness is superb. It's superb. You know, he just always seems to pop up in the right place. And I know that seems quite a basic thing to say. There's no tactical analysis there or anything like that. Once again, there's no measure there, but he's always in the right place. And you know what? He's an underrated attribute, wanting the ball all the time. If I failed, if I've lost the ball, if I've not done the right passage of play, give me the ball again, and I'll show you that I can do it. And that's what I've been really impressed with Tyler and Brenden. It's the bravery. There's no fear. There is no fear within those two. And we've had so many players who've come to Leeds. And because Leeds can be quite a heavy shirt to wear because of the history of the club, obviously they're in the Premier League now as well, it can be quite a burden. But it's not with those two. They love it. They're embracing it. And Brenden is typifying that at the minute. Leeds fans just love him. And I think, yeah, the spatial awareness is something that I've noticed with him, and always wanting the ball, which is a very, very underrated characteristic, I think.
Last but not least here, Conor, I wanted to ask you, this season, where do you think Leeds United is heading realistically? Right at the start of the season, it was like relegation fight again, mid-table, surprise everyone. And then what position do you think, or what has to happen this season for American coaches, or Jesse Marsch specifically, to gain respect there? Become a coach where, let's say, he leaves Leeds in 2 or 3 seasons, and another Premier League club might want to pick him up. Like many other, like, for example, I'm going to give an example of a coach that was a meme at Manchester United, but he's been good in the Premier League in other occasions, like Moyes, right? Good with Everton, good with West Ham now. What position do you think Leeds will finish based on what you're seeing early on? And what do you think needs to happen for Jesse to become a legitimate Premier League coach? Manager.
I think once again, Filippo, I'll answer your last question first. But I think on a basic term, if he has a good record against the top 4, that's going to put him in a different stratosphere, because you've seen the attention. I mean, your videos, when this'll go out, my videos, every other content creator's video, when you beat one of the top 4 sides, the notoriety goes absolutely through the roof. And I think there's been so many UK outlets today on the media sphere talking about Jesse and talking about his accomplishments and actually saying he deserves more respect for what he did against Thomas Tuchel. You will only get that by beating the top 4, top 6 sides. And Leeds had a notoriously horrific record against the top 4 last season, losing 12 out of 12. I mean, he's already scuppered that. He's already beaten Chelsea 3-0, clean sheet, by the way. But if he's able to, you know, get a few notches on that belt in terms of beating some of those top 6 sides, I mean, and I am really looking at Manchester United, which would be massive, because Filippo, I've told you off air before, the hatred that we have as Leeds fans for that club is on a different level. We despise them. So if
they're very beatable now, by the way, very beatable.
Yeah, that's it, man. I mean, but if he's able to do that, not only would he become, you know, legendary at Leeds United, but I think on the global stage, a lot of other people will start to speak about him and recognise what he's doing, especially if he's able to do what he did yesterday, which was tactically outthink, you know, a top manager in Eric Ten Hag or whoever it may be. If he's able to do that with, you know, some of the top 6 sides. I think that's how he's going to get a lot of notoriety and a lot of global coverage. In terms of where Leeds will finish, I mean, if we leave the preconceptions of the Bielsa era, which is just Leeds conceding a shed load of goals every single week, and I know we've spoken before, Filippo, about that probably not really changing under Jesse Marsch, but if he's able to adapt and be a little bit more pragmatic, like for example, Southampton, it didn't work, but he went to a back 5, and I was like, oh, okay, didn't expect that, but he did go to a back 5, and he like
tactical flexibility, right?
Yeah,
it's been a question mark with Jesse, his ability to adapt, and it looks like he's at least open to that idea this season. He's trying.
Yeah, man, exactly. So that's a big thing. Once again, he's learning. You know, we keep saying making the subs, you know, being tactically aware, learning. Because he has to do it in the Premier League, Filippo. You know, if he doesn't do it in the Premier League, you sink or swim, because it's such a competitive league. So essentially, I think if we can keep up what we did, and it won't be like Chelsea every single week, but if we can keep up those pressing actions, that intensity and that quality in the final third, there is definitely scope for Leeds to finish, you know, maybe 13th, 14th, but I'm still a little bit skeptical, Filippo, because I think we need bodies in still. But we are overachieving right now, and I absolutely love it. But realistically, I'm still sort of expecting Leeds to maybe hit the 15th place. But the good thing is, Filippo, and the good thing is for a lot of your American subscribers, this is only the start, mate. This is only the start for this club. This club is too big to not build and build and build. And I think we're going to start seeing a real tactical imprint and some top players. You know, we forget Sinisterra, who's coming from Feyenoord, who had some of the top numbers in the Dutch league last season. He's barely even featured. Patrick Bamford didn't even play yesterday. So we've got a lot of really good sort of irons in the fire, and it's an exciting time, definitely.
And also, the more you stay in the Premier League, more money comes in. Always strengthen the squad more to Jesse's benefit.
Filippo, it's £4 million per place, mate. That's how ridiculous the Premier League is at the minute.
It's a lot of money. So you can sign a lot more Americans that are somewhat cheap in the world of soccer. They're sort of cheap for what you get from them. But
we need to get Paxton next. We need to get Paxton next. He's the next one.
Get Brendan's brother. A lot different from Brenden Aaronson, but it's another player to watch out for. But Conor, I want to thank you very much for taking the time to be here with us once again. Guys, go check out his channel. The link will be on the description if you want to follow Leeds news, everything. I don't cover Leeds all the time. I cover mostly Brendan Tyler. If you want Leeds information, that's your go-to channel. That's my go-to channel. Conor, thank you once again.
Thank you, Filippo. And yeah, all you American subscribers, keep up the good grind. We're seeing on the demographics on YouTube, you guys are everywhere and we love it. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it.